Hi folks, welcome to my Bit Retro Journal. Today I'm going to be working on my QL. What I'm going to be doing with it is playing with one of its programs that it came with. So unlike many other computers back in the early 80s, like the Macintosh in 84 or the Amiga in 85, the QL actually came with a full sort of Microsoft Office-like suite. Now the Macintosh came out with Mac Write and Mac Paint. As far as I can tell, the Amiga didn't have any productivity software in 1985 when it came out, and later on they had some software you could augment or buy and add. But in terms of what came with the Commodore, they didn't really have anything like they might have had a text editor, but not a word processor or a spreadsheet. And then I don't know what came out with the Atari ST when it came out that summer of 85 as well. But the QL came out with a suite of 4 pieces of software. It was a word processor called Quill. It was a spreadsheet called Abacus. It was a graphics program called Easel, and then a database called Archive. What's interesting, the US version, they didn't give them those names. They just called it WP for word processor, QLSS for spreadsheet, BG for business graphics, and then DB for database. So they didn't give them those cool names. But the thing that was unique is the spreadsheet program, and that's what I want to talk about today. So again, the Mac had Mac Write and they had Mac Paint. Now the QL actually didn't have a paint program per se, but it had more of a higher level program called Easel. And I don't think I'll have enough time to talk about it today, but I'll do that in the future. So Easel is kind of the second part of Abacus, the spreadsheet. Modern Excel has a way to not only put information into the database, but also a way to display it with graphs and whatnot. And so Easel, which is the business graphics, it kind of gives you business graphics, so you can do pie charts and whatnot. So it's kind of a sort of a hybrid between what Excel gives you, but also sort of a precursor to something like PowerPoint, because you could create. So the way they had you create slides back then, which was interesting, is just to take a picture of your monitor, and then you could. This is what I think in the QL manual they recommend to do. You create a business graphics and you take a picture of it, and then somehow you can take the photograph, I guess, and display it on a projector. Again, this was the early 80s or mid 80s, 84, where everyone didn't have like color printers or projectors. So you had overhead, these things where you could put something transparent and it would show it. And so that was kind of the way we did business. But what's interesting, of all of the programs, again, I've already shown the QL's word processor in a video where I kind of talked about if all my other computers, if my main computer died and I didn't bring my laptop home, could I do some work? And again, there's a video I'll put right here. And the answer was yes, I could. I could convert it and get it to read in Microsoft Word. Again, it didn't have a paint program. They had, instead of sort of more of a higher level program that could take data and create graphics as opposed to letting you draw it freehand. And the reason they did that is because the QL didn't come with a mouse initially, so it wouldn't have made sense to have a paint program. So the business graphics one is kind of cool. And again, it kind of goes with the spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet is the one that they had that none of the other computers had. And that's what I want to demo today. And so it's called QLSS for a spreadsheet. This is for the US version, but it was called Abacus in the UK. And it's actually pretty powerful, and I'm actually kind of embarrassed that I had forgotten about that. I did a video a couple of years ago now or more where I did AI on the QL, and I did language translation where I translated English to German and German to English. And if you see this video again, there was 2 videos, and I'll point here where they are. You'll see that I actually create the sort of a double indexed German to English, English to German file that I then read in from a file, and I create that in Excel. And I'm thinking Abacus could have done that. In fact, I might try to do that today. So yeah, it's a pretty cool program. So let me I can show. Well, I'm going to set this up again, but if I start it up, you'll see right away that this is going to look like a spreadsheet program. And these programs by Epsign that came bundled. So when you got the QL, you got 4 microdrives with one of each, and then you got another. It was like in a little wallet, and then another wallet with 4 microdrives, and that were blanks. And then you got the spreadsheet program. And so I'm going to demonstrate that today to show you that it's actually more powerful than I even realized it is. Now, it's not as powerful as modern Excel, but considering this is 1984, it's actually pretty impressive. So let me set up the camera a little better so that you can get a better view of it, and then let's go into it. All right, let's do that. Okay, so this is a pretty good picture. By the way, I found one of the jackets. This is the original one with the Epsign software, the US version, because you can see it says database, spreadsheet, word process, and business graphics. Okay. So just to give you a brief look at this, it has, you can get a bigger screen by typing F2. And that gets rid of the, sort of in expert mode, it gets rid of the prompts. But since we're not experts yet, we'll use that. F3 is where you get your commands from. And so you have all sorts of cool commands. And then there's built-in commands as well. And so just to show you that, we can just escape out of that. Let's use F1. So that's loading the microdrive. Again, I'm using VDrive, which emulates the microdrive at the speed of microdrive. So it's not going to be any faster. So this would be the speed back in 1984, which is good for demoing. So here we have it. And it, if you look at formulas, I think it kind of helps you see sort of the kind of stuff you can do. You can have, if you look at the example, the EG one, it just says sales.jan times, so you can have dot notation for variables. So I guess structures, you can have A1, so that's A1's a variable, then you have a sum function, a month function. So this gets pretty complicated. That's pretty cool. So if you do functions, you can see some of the functions you've got built in. And you can ask for a number or text in a field, so you can actually create these lively spreadsheets that actually behave and can, like you could do an inventory system where it's asking for input. So I think that's pretty cool. It's got the usual cosine, sine, tangents, arctangents. It's got in string. So you see something in string. It's got width, tells you how big, how wide your cell is. So I guess for formatting, I don't know all of them. If is a conditional. So if you look at if, you can say if b5 is greater than 10, then do the first part. Otherwise, do the second part. So it has sort of that format. It's almost Lisp-like, I guess. So yeah. Oh, repetition is kind of cool. You can repeat something a bunch of times. So you can repeat text a number of times. So again, it's pretty vast. I have to say I'm pretty impressed with this. I'm not going to do everything here. What I want to do is give you a brief sort of look through, and then what we're going to do is we're going to try to recreate my text translation that I did on Excel in that translation video. So, but let's first show some of the things we can do. So one of the things we can do is we can change the cell. So we can, let's do Windows first. So we can split a window vertically. First, you actually have to move. So if I want to split it here, for instance, or here, if I do window, and I can split it vertical. So the together or separate is interesting. So if I do that, now if I go and do that, you can see that they both move. I'll catch up. If I do F3 window, so do a vertical split, but do it separate. The difference now is that when I go down, the other one doesn't go with me. So that's pretty cool. And this might come in handy for one of the things, I'm going to do the language translation thing that I did in Excel. And for larger numbers, this might come in handy, but I'm not going to use this feature. So F3 window, and we're going to join. And then F3 grid width. And you can just say, I want my width to be 4 for A to G, and it creates smaller, right? So now if I go left, you'll see that all those things are smaller now. So you can, yeah. But let's go back to F3 grid width 10 A through G. All right, so those are some of the cool things you can do. But what I wanted to do really today is show you, again, in that translation video, I could actually use this, and I feel foolish now. So I kind of spec this out already, so I'm not doing this cold because there's some things that don't work. So imagine I had a file of 1,000 words that I could import in. So there is an import feature that would import text files, and it could be comma separated. So files, and I could import that in as a text file, comma separated. I get 2 columns. I will type in the words at one point, and I could do the indices as well, but I can actually generate the indices here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. What I can do is create the following formula. I can say 1, and then the next line I'm going to say, okay, I want this to be 1 plus the previous one, which is A1, and that gives me 2, and then I can say, hey, let's echo this. And I could do this for 1,000. I'm going to do this for 6. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, hopefully you can see this, these words, and this is German words to English translation. And if you saw my translation video, I'm going to create a doubly indexed double array, and it looks like this. So basically, they're both sorted. Am, das, ich, seine, we, with as, he, his, I, most, that. And then so am meisten points to the 5th entry on the right, so that's most. Das points to the last one, that, is the second one, he. And then vice versa, as points to the 6th one, wie, he points, so in the right column, it points to the left column. His, 5 says that seine is his. So, and that way you can do a binary search on one side and then immediately get the other translation. So that's what a doubly indexed two-dimensional array is. And that's what I used for my language translation, which made it really fast. And I used Excel to create it. I'm going to use it here. And again, I had 1,000 words. So imagine I had enough memory in my QL. I could do 512K of memory. I could do 1,000 of these. I'm going to do 6 only because this is an example. So I want to end up with this, and I want to pretend I don't want to type in the numbers. I want to generate them and just assume that I would be loading in the words from a text file. I'm actually going to type them in here, but just assume I could load all this stuff in. So now I want to echo cell A2 from range to range A3 to imagine it could be A1000. I'm only going to do A6. Again, I'm just trying to show you that it can work. Boom. The problem now, though, is these are formulas, and if I reorder them, it's always going to refer to the previous cell, and it's going to get all screwed up. It's hard to show you what will happen, but if I go A, so then I can do B and C. Yeah. So F, and now what I can do is if I sort this, which I'm going to have to do, so if I do an order, and I want to order by column B from row 1 to 6, it'll do that. But now the problem is if execute gets executed, you get all this stuff because it doesn't understand where, it's looking for things that are based on, this, because it's trying to recompute a formula, but now it's been reordered. So, so what I need to do, let's just zap it. Again, I'll start over again, 1. And so this is going to be 1 plus A1, and then F3 echo A2 to A3 to A6. And now I'm going to export it. File, export, and text. And I'm going to call it A1 to A6. And I'll call it, enter file name, mdv3 nums. Okay. And so now what happens is I get rid of the formula. And what I can do next is I can actually import them again, and I'll get my numbers back. So that's sort of the idea. It's a little kludgy, but it's the only way I could think about it. Again, with 6 I could just type them in, but the point I'm trying to make here is, and if I F3, I can zap, and now F3 file import from mdv3 nums. I want it by column, and I'm going to put it to A8 because I'm going to be working on. And so now you'll see that these are actual numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do quickly, and I'm going to fast forward over this, is I'm going to type in the German and English. Imagine I would actually be loading this in from the file. So here we go. Okay, I got them in. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to, first I want to sort it. I'm going to sort it by column C. Again, it's not in order, so I'm going to go F3, order column C, and 1 to 6. And that's going to do that. All right, so now column C's order, and I want column A to have those indices. So I'm going to go F3, copy A8 to A13. And I'm going to copy them to B1. And so now the German ones have the correct indices. So now what I got to do is I'm going to resort the list this time on the first column, A, again from 1 to 6. So now that means the most is pointing to the first one. That is pointing to the second one. So I have to copy the index once again. So copy A8, A13, and copy it to D1. So now I almost have, except I need both lists sorted. And here's where it gets a little tricky. So I need, I don't want the indices, they don't need to be in order now. All I know is that most is going to point to the first one. That is going to point to the second one. He's the third one, but it's not sorted. So what I need to do is, it sorts by rows. So if you go F3 copy, and you say copy from C1 to D6, and copy to row A8, because now we can get rid of the import. Now we can say order on A, but we're going to do it from 8 to 13. 8 to 13. And that's going to sort that for us. And now we just simply copy A8 to A13 to C1. Boom. Oh, I didn't copy those. So I got to copy A8 to B13. So F3 copy A8 to B13 to C1. So now I have the right indexes, and then I can just go F3, rub out A8 to B13, and voila. That is that list right there. And what's cool about that is that I did it only for 6. That's silly, but if you saw that video, if I had to do it for 1,000, and that's why I used Excel to do it with, because there was no easy way to do this, and I could have done this with the spreadsheet program. And I think it's pretty cool that I can do what I did in Excel. Not quite the same, because it wouldn't let me in Excel. I can only sort by selecting columns so I could sort C and D without doing A and B. But here I just had to move it about. And again, if I have enough memory, I could probably do 1,000 words, or definitely more than 6. So this was just an example. That really shows the power of this spreadsheet program, and I think it's pretty impressive. So yeah, 1984. I mean, I know it's 40 years ago, and things seem like ancient, but you know, back then they had airplanes, they had cars, they went to the moon, they had the shuttle. So things weren't as primitive back then. And this is a very powerful piece of software. I'm really impressed with it, and I wish I had done my language translation AI videos using this instead of Excel. I feel like it was a cop-out, and I never even thought about doing that. And again, this program, the Macintosh, nor the Amiga, nor the Atari had this bundled. And I don't think they even had it when they first came out. They eventually did. I think Lotus 1-2-3 was a big one that was ported both to the Amiga and to the Mac, but the initial one they didn't, and the QL did have it. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. Next time, I'll go into how to export this, and then use this stuff, and then use Easel, the graphics program, to show business graphics. All right, but I'm going to end here. The video is getting too long. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.